you're gonna learn, you're gonna feel really confident, or it can start to spiral and you start to not enjoy the profession you work so hard to be in.
Welcome to the Spit It Out podcast. This is where we ask the hard questions about life, dentistry, and healthcare. I'm Meg, a registered dental hygienist who loves to brush, floss, and spit out the truth. Welcome back to Spit It Out with Meg. I'm your host, Meg. We have a lovely guest all the way from Canada with us today. I'd like to introduce you to my friend, Fiona. Hi, Fiona. How are you doing today?
Hi, Meg. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing really great today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming on. I wanted to start by asking you about your dental hygiene story. What made you first fall in love with the idea of becoming a dental hygienist?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think to be honest, I didn't even realize or understand what dental hygiene was when I first started my forage into dentistry. My first goal was to be a dentist. And then I did my dental assisting program. And while I was in that, I started to hear about dental hygiene and realize it was another option, but I still kind of didn't go that direction as yet. I did apply for it just to see, but I was still kind of really focused on being a dentist. And then while I was doing my degree, I decided, you know what, I really want to start with dental hygiene instead. Applied a number of times. If you ever take a look at my page at Mouthbox, I've talked about not being accepted into something or achieving something the first time around because, I didn't get into dental hygiene the first time I applied. Basically, after applying a couple of times, I got in and it was kind of just fate after that. I really fell in love with it.
What made you start going into dental assisting?
Ontario is still required to have that to be able to apply for dental hygiene. And then by the time I got into dental hygiene, it wasn't really like a requirement anymore.
How long did you assist then? That's really cool.
Not long at all. I really quickly realized that it wasn't for me. It wasn't my path, my goal, and I didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
Shout out to assistants. They have a really great job of what they do. But just for me, I was like, can't do it. I think it was like I was at not temping, but I was like doing a placement with public health. A dentist was doing the procedure and I was like falling asleep holding suction in the patient's mouth. And I was like, okay, this is really not for me. So I moved on from there. So
Oh,
I didn't work it much in the office.
yeah, makes sense. And tell me more about working as a dental hygienist in Canada. Are you able to own your own practice?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a lot of components that are the same. Um, US and Canada, I think a lot of the differences are going to be scope of practice, like what we're capable of doing. But again, throughout Canada, the provinces are also similar to the states where some provinces have allowabilities versus others. So there are definitely provinces who have the component of doing local. And unfortunately, where I am in Toronto, Ontario, cannot do local as yet. We're hoping that that comes in soon.
Yeah.
But we are fortunate that we are able to do our own independent RDH clinics. And it's a really, really great option, obviously, where you can have your own clinic. You can have a referring dentist. You can basically have a full functioning dental clinic. So it is a really great option for any hygienists that are within Ontario. I think some other differences are going to be just the way that we bill between Canada and the US. So in Canada, we bill based on the time that we're doing versus the actual procedure. So however much time we're spending is what we would bill.
Wow. I did not know
Yes.
that at all.
Yeah.
So, do you think that encourages you to slow down, or do you think it encourages you to speed up in general when it comes to dentistry?
I don't think so at all because I mean, there's a lot of offices who, God forbid, they still only offer 30 minutes for a hygienist to do what they need to do. But I think it just depends on what the client needs. I definitely think that the pricing is there so that most offices still want to do quantity. So they want to do more appointments versus just saying, oh, yeah, spend 5 hours with this person. Obviously makes no sense for you to do that with somebody unless it's warranted and the procedure calls for it. So I still find that on average, we do have typically a 1 hour hygiene appointment for most reasons. And I feel like it's very similar to what you guys have there.
Yeah, that's actually really, really interesting. So,
Mhm.
in the US at least, our biggest issue as of late, I'm sure you've heard of it, is reimbursement. Of course,
Uh-huh.
it hasn't really raised within the last, I'd say probably 20 or 30 years. In Canada, is it a similar issue, or have you heard anything similarly to that with reimbursement?
Yeah, for sure. I think we have both similar problems. And then I think the other thing that's added in and let me know if you're experiencing this as well too, where the cost of the actual procedure also hasn't gone up. I don't know if you guys are your cost for the procedure itself, does that has that changed for you? Does it change within each year? Like how does that work usually
Mm.
for you guys?
Oh gosh. I mean, when it comes to like a private office that takes dental insurance, it's hard because from just my limited scope, if the reimbursements don't go up, it's hard to like charge more in general. However, I'm not
Hmm.
really the one who sets the fees, so I'm not 100% sure. But wages also can't quite go up if nothing else goes up.
Nothing goes up,
And the
yeah.
big problem too is also just like the price of the products that we use is so
Are
pricey.
going
I mean,
up.
anything,
Yeah.
you know how that is. And so, I'm just curious, like, are wages being affected for
Mm.
hygienists in your area due to this as well?
Yeah. So for us, our fee guide is determined by pretty much like the ODA, the dental sphere, the dentist guide. And from there, typically it hasn't risen quite a lot or enough over the years. So that's one problem that we're facing here is that the cost of what we're charging for the procedure is not reflective a lot of times of what we're doing. And then based on inflation and then what insurances are covering. A lot of times they are covering that stuff, but we're finding year after year, they're actually reducing and removing a lot of the coverage that they initially were giving. So they may have had coverage, somebody may have had coverage, but maybe this year the insurance company has reevaluated and decided that they're going to reduce the type of coverage that they have, or maybe their employer decides to reduce the type of coverage that they have.
Oh,
And
wow.
they may go from having the availability to having three hygiene appointments a year down to one or two.
Hmm.
So I think those are some of the bigger concerns. And then kind of reflecting back on, hygiene wages, for sure. If those things are not reflected, because I mean, we have huge, like you mentioned, huge overhead in dentistry. I
Yeah.
always say to everybody else, if you want to be medical, maybe you should do like chiropractic or something less overhead. But we have huge overhead. I think that's like the hardest part. And so a lot of times the wages for us can't really, I mean, yes, the overhead is a lot, but they don't really look so much, I feel, and what I've experienced, they don't look so much at how much is being charged all the time. That is definitely in the equation, but there's also a source of like how competitive the market is. There's that big discussion of we don't have enough hygienists in the market or, can't
Hmm.
find the right hygienist. So then when there's not enough to fill into the for the job positions, then the wages are gonna go up because it's a little bit more
Hmm.
competitive.
Yeah.
But when it's not as competitive, which it was when I joined the market, which was like around 2011, I mean, you get wages that were not reflective of what it should be or what we are providing. But right now, there's a lot of concern, especially since COVID and going beyond. There is a lot of need for, positions or people. It is quite competitive. And so the wages are fairly high. So to kind of give an example, in Toronto, I think you'd find wages usually anywhere between, 5 to 60 on average, like around the good range. Most people will say 45 is too low. 50 to 60 is usually better for like the Toronto area. And then of course surrounding areas lower, like not as urban areas, like they're going to be a little bit lower as well too.
I had one more question when it comes to Canadian healthcare with dentistry, actually, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I've heard that in Canada, it is a universal healthcare system. Would you say that's correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So when it comes to dentistry, though, is it the same thing?
So dentistry was recently included more so into the universal healthcare. It wasn't always the case. So currently the government does provide, but they're looking more so at a certain income limit
Hmm.
for the households that they're providing. But that's changing and it's starting to include more and more people. But their coverage again is not it's not great. And a lot of people who are entering into that coverage with the government, CDCP is what they call it, they're finding that it's not quite covering what their needs are reflective of.
Yeah.
People who haven't been had coverage and haven't been for years are needing way more than what's there. And I mean, that's always the problem, right? With form of coverage. They're not really providing based on the true health need.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you so much for diving into that with me. I love learning about different countries with their just hygiene regulations because it is so, so different. And I think it's
Mhm.
so wild how different it is, but it's very fascinating. So going back to you for a bit here, I heard you took a full year off of working clinically as a hygienist. And in that year, what did you hope to gain and what did you actually gain?
Yeah. I took a year off, but it was due to having a child. So again,
Congratulations.
thank you. Again, in Canada, we do receive maternity leave, and it is minimum of 1 year that you can take. You can actually take up to 18 months. Now,
Go
it is
Canada.
not, it is good. It is ideal and it
Yeah.
is good, but you don't get full wages
Mm,
compensated. And so it can be a challenge if you're not budgeting for it, if you're not financially
yeah.
prepared for that. But on average, people take generally 12 months. The other problem is that childcare. It's hard to get childcare for your infants
Yeah.
after that fact. So it's good and it's not good in some cases. But yeah, I took a year off to focus on my family and my daughter. I think before that, I had even taken just kind of delve back a bit. I had taken a year off of working clinically even before that because I was trying to forge more into opportunities outside of the operatory. What could I do with my RDH outside of, working in the providing treatment? What does that look like for me? And it was really great. I definitely took that year off and I found out a lot about myself, a lot about the career. And I mean, I would, if anybody was willing to take that chance, I would highly recommend to do it because I think you would find a lot of opportunities.
So in that year, of course, you're focusing on your family, which is beautiful.
Hmm.
And did you also start any projects that you kind of mentioned outside of the clinic?
Yeah, I had some projects that I had already started in the past. And then during my maternity leave, I was able to kind of focus a little bit more on those. So one of those projects was the RDH New Grad Summit.
Yeah, tell me more.
I've been doing a lot of mentoring in the past, currently for new grads. I found that, I'm a clinical instructor at college myself. And I found that between discussing with the students, between helping mentoring within practice, being a lead hygienist in a practice, having new grads come through and identifying that a lot of the components are not really there right away. I mean, when you're going through school, you learn so much, but you're only learning a certain amount. And unfortunately, they can't give you absolutely everything that you need when you're starting in an office. Some of those needs might be the way that you talk to clients. Some of those needs might be understanding a variety of additional procedures. Some of those things might be just understanding how do I get my school clinical needs into a 1 hour appointment? Something is, that that can be as detrimental to somebody when they're
Mm-hmm.
starting out. So I really saw a lot of that and thought to myself, and I mean, I had started this way back in COVID, but I
Yeah.
wanted to help to really create that process, create that transition from school into the office to be a little less shocking or a little bit less anxious feeling. And so I do mentor, but I thought, why not make this a fun event? And so I was able to focus on the RDH New Grad Summit and really bring that out. And so this is a full day event that's focused on board prep. It's focused on answering those difficult questions. It's focused on helping to make a student feel bolder going into the dental office so that they can be the better hygienist that they want to be. Because I feel like a lot of those wait at times when you enter in, it can go one of two ways. You're gonna learn, you're gonna feel really confident, or it can start to spiral and you start to not enjoy the profession you work so hard to be in.
Wow, that's amazing. Was 2025 the first year that it was officially an event?
No, I actually my very first event for the summit would have been, it's smaller in capacity, but it would have been in, 2019 was the very first time that I had done, like, a workshop,
Oh my
and then
gosh.
COVID hit, and then I had to
Yeah, of
kinda, like,
course.
table it. I
Yeah.
had to table it, and then I was able to bring it back out again in 2023.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Okay, so it's been growing for sure the last few years then. Wow,
Yeah,
that is
for
so
sure.
exciting. I love looking at the page and seeing how many students were attending. Did you advertise or call different schools and be like, "Hey, like we have this going on," or how did you get the word out?
It was hard. It was a challenge. I definitely felt like networking. I felt like going to conferences, different things like that, and then speaking to students there. Sometimes talking to faculty, but I found it is sometimes a little bit challenging with faculty because they do have the requirements of, or restrictions upon them of what the school's expectations are. And so you may have this great event and you're reaching out to the schools and it might not be as well received initially. So I found that kind of going through the grassroots of people and then sometimes faculty. It did happen to start to grow.
And you mentioned speaking. I think that's so fabulous that you speak. How did you start speaking? And where did you start speaking?
Backstory. At the time, it was about like let's say 2018, and there were in Toronto, or let's say in Ontario, there were a lot of offices that were getting audited by our public health as to what their infection control competencies were, or not competencies, but what did their infection control look like in an office? And a lot of offices were failing, which is not a good thing at all. So this was like pure chaos at the time,
Yeah.
if you could only imagine.
Oh, yeah.
And at the time, I was working with a company that did provide infection control disposables and different components. And so I was like, you know what? I'm well versed in this information. Why don't I go and help out some of these offices? So I started to do, through the company, I started to do some audits to different offices, going in and saying, you know what? Here are the things that you're potentially missing and you need to revamp on. And then I was like, you know, why don't I just do like a full on speaking gig on this? Like, I feel like it would be well received and is needed. There's not
Yeah.
enough out there at the time. And so I went to kind of like they're not around now, but it was an agency that did speaking for hygienists. And I pitched to them what I wanted to do. Lo and behold, they said yes. I didn't even have a presentation ready at the time.
Oh my gosh.
Mind you, it was like months away, the date. So there's more than enough time to do it. But I had the information. I knew what to expect. And pretty much that's how speaking began for me. Now, I wouldn't recommend starting with a difficult topic like IPAC because it's just like everybody attacks you and you're like leaving this presentation thinking like, oh my God, I'm the worst person ever. But that's where my path kind of started with speaking.
Oh, wow. Where else do you typically speak regularly? Are there specific conferences you go to?
You know what? In the beginning, when I started speaking, that was a focus of mine. That was something that I absolutely wanted to do. I wanted to speak at a higher level, speak at conferences. The engagements that were doing were kind of private level, more like study club type components. But they were still, you know, to audiences of 100 or more. And so I was like, okay, I want to move forward. I want to go to a bigger audience. And I kind of started to, but there were a lot of negative experiences that I kind of had along the way, where I thought this is a little bit too stressful for me. And I felt that there was actually a lot of like, how can I put it? Like competitiveness amongst the speakers even and stuff like that. And so I just, for me, for like a restful mind, I decided that I didn't want to go forward in that capacity
Yeah.
at that larger component. And for me, I felt so much happier doing it at like study club level. I felt really happy doing it at, you know, more of a smaller function capacity. That was where my peace of my mind stayed with.
Can I ask, when it came to the competitiveness, was it an online, like comments you'd receive, DMs, or was it more in person? Was it a feeling or more of just like, were things said? I'm just curious about how you felt that.
Yeah, I think it could be a mixture of things. You know, sometimes you speak with some people and you're just getting that feeling. Sometimes they give you comments,
Yeah.
whatever it may be. But I think it was just like a collaboration of different things. I felt like with the particular company that I had been working with to do the speaking gigs for infection control, I wasn't really loving the way that they treated speakers. And that also led towards, you know, I don't want to be treated like that. Some of it was experiences that I had with other speakers being competitive or not being as supportive potentially as I thought a community like that could be.
Yeah.
And so for me, for again, for my peace of mind, I was like, you know what? I don't feel like this is the space that is the best for me. And I prefer to be a little bit lower, less competitive kind of space for speaking.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. What tips would you give someone who wants to begin speaking as a hygienist?
Yeah. So number one, make sure that you're passionate about your topic. I know that that might sound like, okay, yeah, duh, but like honestly, if you're not passionate about what you're going to talk about, it really translates in a different way. And first of all, you're going to be stressed out as a speaker. It's not going to maybe flow or come out of you as well as you would like it to. It'll kind of represent that way as well too to the audience. You're willing to do the research. You're willing to really feel confident and experienced about it when you're talking about it. Another tip that I would have is network. Make sure that you're getting out there talking to maybe, companies, talking to other speakers, talking to anybody about, um, you know, getting you into different positions, talking to study clubs. Those are really great ways to start. Going with a smaller study club or a smaller event, speaking there, seeing how things go. And then I always say to use feedback as well too for constructive criticism to help you to grow, to move forward. Some of it's going to be really helpful, really understanding. Some of it just ignore it because you can't please absolutely everybody. I enjoy a lot of feedback most times because it really does help me to kind of pivot in a different way or to grow. And then I think those are like three of the main things. And those things will really help you to start in the beginning for sure. So just making
Yeah.
sure you're passionate, making sure that you're networking well for your speaking opportunities, and then making sure that, feedback is going to help you to grow from where you are, and then realizing which feedback you don't want to kind of keep on your growth.
Like, don't take it personally. Like, if you get feedback and like,
I mean,
don't,
you'll hear all kinds of things. Some people will complain about speakers, food, and it's like, but I have nothing to do about with that.
yeah, like whatever. And then when it comes to your presentation, I feel like that just as someone who doesn't speak just sounds intimidating, just making one that's good enough. Do you ever get
Uh-huh.
one audited by like a friend or one of your faculty or something? Do you ever have them look at it and go, "Hey, does this make sense?" Like,
100%. Absolutely. I hope it's okay to shout her out here, but I have
yeah.
a friend of mine, maybe not with presentations, but other articles and different things. My friend Bethany Montoya. I'm sure
Oh,
you've seen
she's
her, Human
awesome. Yep.
RDH.
I love her.
Phenomenal. I
Oh
always
yeah.
shout out Bethany. I'm like, hey, can you read this? Like, am I far off the mark with this? I definitely read it to sometimes read it to my family. I'm like, everybody just sit down and
Sit
listen
down
to
and learn.
this.
You're gonna learn
My
something today,
my
guys.
son will be like, this is how you clean traps properly.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
but
That's so cute.
yeah, I think like whoever you feel confident with sharing something, because
Yeah.
it's presenting can be personal and like what you do is personal at times, especially if you haven't presented it to somebody and you're like, oh my God, I don't know about this or whatever. And making sure that you have somebody that you feel or people that you feel are safe to present that information to in the beginning and go over it helps a lot for sure.
And you once mentioned an honorarium to me over email. What
Yeah.
is that? I do not know what that means.
Yeah. So honorarium is what you would receive in compensation for your, speaking or whatever it is that you provided for that event.
Yeah.
So now honorariums are different. The what you receive, what you can expect from it can be different for multiple different reasons. Have been times in my career where I haven't taken an honorarium because maybe what I want out of the event or whatever it is that I'm doing, maybe I want marketing, maybe I want something else, or maybe there's something in kind that we're offering each other. So I'm going to do this and they're going to do something else for me that I really needed. So you can kind of do like for like almost. Other times, maybe I'm taking when I first started, I definitely try to kind of go for the for the max. You can expect to barter most times, but other times you're going to say, this is my honorarium, especially once you get higher into it or further along into your speaking or, event component. And you can say, this is my number and I don't want to budge from it. But for me, there's always a component of, what are we dealing with here? Who am I presenting with? What am I going to receive from this? When I'm thinking of what am I going to kind of offer or ask for or not take from that event.
And usually it's the event who pays you, not the sponsors in the presentation, correct? Or is
Not
that like a whole
necessarily.
different thing?
Not necessarily. It can be either or. It could be that you have a certain fee and you get a sponsor, or maybe, sorry, you have a certain fee amount that you want. The event is
Mhm.
not willing to meet that amount, and so you can get a sponsor who would then give you the top up that you would need for what you're requiring for your services.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you for sharing that. I had no idea. I heard and I've seen that you are a Figs affiliate, which is super
Yeah,
cool.
how can you
Super
tell?
cool.
I feel like I'm always faked out.
Yes. Well, they got some good stuff.
Yeah.
How has your affiliation with Figs and other Fig Scrub ambassadors shaped you as a hygienist and as a business owner?
Yeah, I think with Figs, it was pretty early on in my content life that I was associated with them. So I think I've been working with them now since 2020. And they my technical title is ambassador with them. Sometimes I do work where it is paid. A lot of times it is just more community work, but they are a very supportive, super supportive team. We have, I don't know, I would say it's got to be over 500 ambassadors now. I mean, way back when it was only 300, but they are super supportive. I think any event that you have going on in your life, anything that you're working on, they're willing to help you in any way that they can. So for example, with my events that I have, they're always willing to help a sponsor in whatever capacity that they can. I feel like once I started working with this particular company, my eyes were open to how you should be treated as a creator, as a person in that space. And from that, I've really been picky who I work with because they're just
Yeah.
happening.
Wow, that is so, so cool. Does the Canada Figs group talk to the US one? Are they like the same? Or are they kind of separate?
No, we're all the same. So, like, there's even more than Canada now. They have like Australia, they have Mexico, they have like a whole bunch of different countries. It's been a little bit challenging since that happened because it's just so many people. But definitely, I have a lot of friends from the American side as well too. We did in 2022 go to a retreat together, so I was able to meet like a lot of
Wow.
ambassadors. I also did a dental impact trip with them in 2024. I can't say last year anymore because
I
it's
know.
2026 now.
That is
But
so cool.
yeah, in 2024, I
Oh,
did do an impact trip with them in Dominican. And so I was the only Canadian there. At the time, I think actually at the time I might have been the only dental in Canada, like the only dental hygienist in Canada.
wow.
Now we do have other dental hygiene clinicians who are on the ambassador role.
Yeah.
But I think once you go to some of the events and stuff like that, or once they do have like offline stuff that we do. They sometimes have like ambassador parties virtually where you can
Yeah.
meet other people. Once you're doing those, kind of being involved in that within their community, then you'll get to know a lot of other ambassadors within Canada, out and everything like that. But the Canadian wise, we even have like WhatsApp group chats and stuff like that.
Wow, I really, really love how connected all of you Figs ambassadors are. I really just think more companies should do that. It's
Mhm.
just such a great way for like, even the company to network, but also you, all of you guys, because everybody wears Figs, veterinarians, everybody, like literally everybody. And I just think that's awesome. I'm very passionate about that.
I think it also kind of shows the people that they choose as well too. They are pretty particular and like
Yeah,
we do have like an almost like an interview session before we become ambassadors as well too, and they're looking for people who are positive, who are a really great reflection of what they do in their industry.
I love that. Well, what is your long-term goal when it comes to hygiene, mouthbox, and Dear New Grad RDH?
Great question. So long-term goals, I would say I would love to see growth, especially in my mentoring component. So if you check out at Dear RDH New Grad, you'll see a lot of the events that I have that will be coming up. I'm going to be posting those 2026 events this week. So definitely
Woohoo.
you want to check that out. But I would love to see that growth kind of go throughout Canada, I think, with those sessions because I think it's time to get back to like live events, like really
Mm-hmm.
stop doing a lot of more virtual. I mean, I'm going to have some virtual component for those who can't make the live event, but I really love like just doing live events. You really grab so much out of education in person. And so for me, I really want to just have further growth with that. At Mouthbox, I think just staying consistent. I had a talk with somebody today and they were saying like how my channel seems like really realistic. For me, I'm really following what I'm doing and what I'm kind of my goals are rather than kind of curating something that's not there. So everything you see there is like it's a fact. It is me. It is what I'm going through. It's what I'm experiencing. And so I just hope I can kind of keep with that.
Yeah,
And all the while, pour back into myself, pour back into my family, but more importantly, pour into my goals of what I see for myself.
that's so beautiful. Well, what is next for you, and where can my audience connect with you?
Yeah. So I think what's next for me, you're gonna have to kind of stay tuned at Mouthbox at DRDH New Grad. I do have two new projects that I'm going to be working on that are not currently, I cannot say as yet, but they will be coming out very soon. And I'm so excited about them. So I would definitely say watching following me at Mouthbox on IG or following at Dear RDH New Grad on IG. I also have at Big Sis Dear RDH, sorry, at Big Sis RDH channel, which is more for current students. I'm trying to revive that account now because I've been
Yeah.
negligent of that for so long. But I do have 2 new projects coming out. I don't quite want to say just yet, but
No, it's okay.
it's coming soon. So I think
Very
following
excited.
along is going to definitely have some really interesting components for everybody to see.
And I will put all of Fiona's information in the description box. So if you'd like to connect with her, please check her out. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I've had such a good time talking with you. I don't really get the chance to speak with many people outside of the US when it comes to dentistry. So I think that's so fabulous. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.